Hi folks, welcome to your latest planning outlook that's updated on Friday the 30th of October. It's a very unsettled story that takes us through the weekend into the early part of next week. Further stormy conditions at times coming across the mountains and further heavy rainfall as well. So flooding is very likely across many regions. Temperatures generally on the chilly side as we go into the early part of next week with some snow and some hail and that accumulating on the higher mountains for a time. And then higher pressure is set to build for something a bit quieter beyond the middle of the week. The total rainfall chart paints a very wet picture across western mountains with widely 70 to 100 mil across most of the west and southwest facing hills and a few spots getting over 100 mil over the next 2 or 3 days. So very wet underfoot is an understatement, saturated ground, more realistic and likelihood of flooding across these areas through this time. And even some of the river systems that spread out eastwards from the highlands will be likely in flood as that water just piles through the streams and the river systems. The least wet areas, the far north of the highlands and toward the Peak District. Let's have a look at the charts for the next few days. Saturday has a very active weather system swinging its way across the British Isles. We've got a deep area of low pressure toward the northwest, a broad zone of rain extending east and northeastwards, a torrential belt of rain associated with the cold front as that passes east across England and Wales during Saturday daytime. Something of a clearance in the rain following, although it may still stay persistently damp across the western hills of Wales, and all places seeing a very wild day across the mountains from low levels upwards. Gale force winds on higher terrain, storm or hurricane force winds will be around. So a very poor day in all respects for Saturday as we get the centre of the low just swing into the West Highlands. Those winds could be at their very strongest later in the day across the Western Highlands of Scotland. Watch those high level observation stations. It's quite probable that Ben Nevis and around Cairngorm Summit get some gusts to around 100 miles per hour. Not a day to be out on the hills then. The brief bump of high pressure, if you remember, we were talking about that in Tuesday's video. It's a bit further out to the west. It's not really helping us for Saturday, I'm afraid. It doesn't do much into Sunday because by that time we've got the next area of low pressure just sweeping through as well. It's all a very fast moving weather system by this stage, but it's one which just maintains gale force winds and areas of persistent rain. We may well just have a brief gap in the rain as one system clears before the next one comes in, but the fronts which approach from the southwest bring the threat of rain setting in again across Wales and more widely then into the evening and the night. And Monday is another fine mess of weather systems coming through. Still a wild day across most of the hills. Further rain extensively focused across western mountains. There may be something a bit more widespread early on, but the main change starting to take effect by this stage is a generally colder air mass that becomes established as a cold westerly flow with its origins over the North Atlantic around Greenland. And freezing levels will have come down quite a bit by this stage, so some snow on the higher tops, the Munros in Scotland, maybe temporarily coming down to a bit lower levels than that, and maybe even some snow falling on the very highest tops in England and Wales, and some hail, and possibly an isolated rumble of thunder, all thrown in for good measure. It's a relatively more simple chart into Tuesday in that we just maintain that chilly westerly flow, so fewer fronts tangled across the country, but it's a story of showers, and those could still rattle into western hills, particularly in Scotland, very frequently through the day. Some snow and some hail, and probably the coldest air of the next few days coming through at this stage, so those snow showers could well fall to lower slopes across the highlands at times. Some accumulations on higher terrain. I don't think anything sticking more than just some hail across the very lower levels, so temperatures at freezing point, say around 700 to 900 metres on the mountains, a bit higher across England and Wales. A windy day again, severe wind chill and likely to be towards gale force across many of the high tops. The driest conditions across more eastern hills and maybe England and Wales not doing too bad, but expect some showers nevertheless. Things finally beginning to change by the time we get to Wednesday. As high pressure begins to build from the Atlantic, we finally shove all the various weather systems off towards Scandinavia, and we get a reprieve from systems coming off the Atlantic for a time. Still a few showers around on Wednesday, a chilly northwesterly flow, not quite as windy as previous days, still a keen wind chill though in exposure on higher tops, maybe a few frequent bands of showers, but just tending to fade out as things stabilise as pressure begins to build. The air then becoming very clear, having come around off the North Atlantic, and as we lose the wind, that visibility just improving all the while. Looking at the later part of the week, and it's likely that that high extends broadly across the British Isles, drifting gradually eastwards the centre of the high with time. So a few days of quieter weather looking likely as we head beyond the middle of the week. Initially chilly conditions around and temperatures just stabilising and maybe lifting a little bit with time. Some inversion conditions may begin to form as that centre of high pressure just moves through, so some low-level mist and fog patches likely at least in the mornings, and dry conditions and lighter winds at least for a few days. Need to watch the easterly, which may just strengthen across the south of Britain if low pressure around Biscay just starts to have some interference with the pattern, and we may get a milder south to southeasterly flow dragged in by the time we get towards next weekend. Just got to watch then exactly where the high moves to and how soon anything just starts to drift back from around the southwest. It may be that high pressure is still one way or the other in charge of the pattern even into the early part of the following week, so just a chance of some sustained quieter weather. We shall watch all those developments with interest. Stay up to date with all your local forecasts, of course, every day on our website. Thanks for watching today. Bye for now.